The morning was bright and filled with the gentle hum of excitement in the small village. Every home seemed to be alive with preparation, colorful fabrics fluttering in the breeze and the scent of fresh bread and flowers filling the air. Today was the wedding of a young bride named Anaya. She was known in the village for her kind heart and gentle nature, always ready to help anyone in need. But there was another part of her life that had made her the subject of some unkind whispers. Anaya had always struggled with her weight. Despite her warmth and goodness, a few people in the village were cruel enough to call her names behind her back. She tried not to let it bother her, focusing instead on the joy of her upcoming marriage. Anaya had been waiting for this day for months. Her mind wandered as she adjusted the soft white dress her mother had sewn for her. The delicate lace brushing against her skin. She was nervous, yes, but mostly filled with hope. She imagined her life with her husband, filled with laughter, shared dreams, and quiet evenings together. She had never let the cruel words of a few villagers darken her imagination for long. Today was meant to be her happiest day, and she clung to that thought as she prepared herself. However, not everyone in the village shared in her excitement. A small group of mischievous villagers had decided to play what they thought was a funny joke. They whispered to each other, giggling behind closed doors about sending Anaya to the wrong ranch, far from the wedding celebration. Their plan was cruel, meant to humiliate her for something she could not change. They thought it would be entertaining to watch her confusion and embarrassment, imagining the faces she would make when she discovered the mistake. The villagers did not consider the hurt this could cause, thinking only of their amusement. When the horse-drawn carriage arrived to take Anaya to her wedding, she stepped in with a smile, unaware of the scheme unfolding. She waved to her friends and family, trusting that she would soon be surrounded by love and celebration. But as the carriage moved further away from the familiar streets of her village, she noticed the landscape changing. The rolling hills and winding paths were unfamiliar. Anxiety began to prick at her heart, but she tried to shake it off. Perhaps the driver was taking a scenic route, she thought. Or maybe there was a small detour along the way. She reminded herself that soon, she would be at the place where everyone was waiting to celebrate with her. Hours passed, and the carriage finally slowed to a stop. Anaya stepped down, her heart fluttering with anticipation. But what greeted her was not the joyful crowd she had imagined. Instead, the ranch was quiet, surrounded by fields and animals with no signs of the wedding celebration anywhere. The sun was beginning to dip in the sky, painting the horizon with shades of gold and pink. Anaya's chest tightened. Confusion and worry replaced the nervous excitement she had carried all morning. She looked around, searching for someone she recognized. Someone who could explain what had happened, but there was no one. Feeling both embarrassed and anxious, Anaya began to walk toward the nearest building on the ranch. The doors creaked as she pushed them open, and she was met with curious eyes. The ranch hands, busy with their chores, paused to glance at the unexpected visitor. Some whispered to each other, clearly unsure of who she was or why she had arrived. Anaya's cheeks flushed as she tried to explain herself. I think there's been a mistake. I'm supposed to be at my wedding." Her voice was gentle, almost hesitant, but it carried a tremor of panic. The ranch hands exchanged glances, unsure of how to respond. They had never seen a bride like this before, arriving alone and in such distress. While they were not unkind, they had not expected visitors in wedding attire, and the unusual sight left them uncertain. Anaya felt the weight of the situation pressing down on her. She had dreamed of this day for so long, yet here she was, far from her village, with no one to guide her, no celebration waiting, and only the quiet fields surrounding her. She felt a pang of sadness, wondering if she would ever see her family and friends again. As she wandered across the ranch, trying to make sense of everything, she noticed a small figure watching her from a distance. It was a young girl, no older than 10, with wide, curious eyes. She had lived on the ranch for as long as she could remember, taking care of small chores and animals, and observing the world around her. Something about the bride's demeanor caught her attention. The girl could sense that Anaya was not just lost, but hurt in a deeper way. She saw the mix of fear, confusion, and sadness in her eyes and felt a sudden urge to help. The orphan girl approached Anaya cautiously, her small hands clasped together. She spoke softly, almost whispering so as not to startle the bride. "Please don't go," she said, her voice filled with sincerity. "Stay here just for a while. You can rest. You don't have to be afraid. We can take care of you." Anaya looked down at the girl, surprised by the sudden kindness from someone she had never met. There was something about the girl's honesty and warmth that made her heart feel a little lighter. For the first time since arriving at the ranch, she felt a flicker of hope. The orphan girl led Anaya to a small room in the main house of the ranch. It was simple but clean, with sunlight streaming through the windows, making the room feel cozy. She helped Anaya settle in, offering her water and a small snack. The bride felt tears welling up in her eyes, not from sadness this time, but from the overwhelming feeling of being cared for when she had expected only judgment and ridicule. The girl's actions were gentle, patient, and full of compassion, something Anaya had not anticipated from a stranger. As the hours passed, Anaya began to open up to the orphan girl, sharing fragments of her story, the excitement of her wedding, the cruel joke, and the fear that she would never see her family again. The girl listened attentively, never interrupting, never judging. Her presence alone was comforting, as if a small light had been turned on in the darkness of Anaya's confusion. The bride realized that kindness could come from the most unexpected places, and that even in the midst of a cruel joke, there could be moments of genuine compassion. By evening, the ranch seemed less intimidating. Anaya walked with the orphan girl through the fields, watching the animals settle down for the night. She marveled at the simplicity of life here, the quiet routines and the sense of peace that seemed to linger in the air. Though her wedding had been delayed by a cruel trick, she found herself appreciating the calm and the unexpected friendship she had found. She realized that sometimes the heart could find comfort and belonging in places it never imagined. As night fell and the sky filled with stars, Anaya felt a sense of calm wash over her. She knew the road ahead would not be easy. She still had to face her village, explain what had happened, and navigate the emotions tied to the prank. But for the first time since the carriage ride, she felt a sense of strength within herself. She was not alone. The orphan girl had become a companion, a friend, and perhaps even a guide through this unexpected journey. Together they sat quietly, listening to the sounds of the ranch at night, knowing that tomorrow would bring new challenges, but also new hope. And in that quiet moment, Anaya made a small promise to herself. She would stay strong, remain kind, and embrace the unexpected moments of her life. The cruel joke that had begun her day might have caused pain, but it had also led her to an unlikely friendship and a place where she felt valued, safe, and seen. For Anaya, this was the beginning of a new chapter, one that would teach her about courage, compassion, and the beauty of human kindness in the most surprising ways. The next morning, the ranch was filled with the soft sounds of life waking up. The birds chirped, the animals stirred in their pens, and the sun painted the sky with shades of orange and gold. Anaya awoke in the small, cozy room the orphan girl had shown her. For the first time in a long while, she felt a sense of calm. The events of the previous day, the cruel prank, the mistaken ranch, the fear, and the embarrassment, still lingered in her mind, but the kindness she had received gave her strength. She stretched and looked around, grateful for the quiet comfort of this unexpected refuge. The orphan girl, whose name was Mira, was already up, tending to the small chores of the ranch. She greeted Anaya with a warm smile. "Good morning," she said softly. "I hope you slept well. There's so much to see and do today." Anaya smiled back, feeling a warmth in her chest. She realized that she was beginning to feel at home here, at least for now. And that thought brought a sense of peace she had not known in a long time. As the day unfolded, Mira took Anaya around the ranch, showing her how to feed the animals, collect eggs, and water the plants. Anaya had never done such work before, but she found herself enjoying the rhythm of it. There was something deeply satisfying about caring for the animals and watching the plants grow. The ranch was a place where appearances did not matter, and hard work and kindness were the measures of worth. For the first time, Anaya felt that she could be herself without judgment. Mira's constant encouragement helped her gain confidence, and the bond between the two grew stronger with every shared task and laughter. During lunch, they sat under a large tree near the main house, enjoying a simple meal of bread, fresh fruit, and milk. Mira told stories about life on the ranch, the animals, and the small joys she found in the everyday routines. Anaya listened intently, smiling as she learned about this quiet, hard-working life. She realized that happiness could be found in simple things, something she had overlooked in her rush toward the grandeur of a wedding celebration. Mira's words were gentle yet profound, reminding Anaya that kindness, love, and acceptance were more important than appearances or social expectations. As the afternoon sun climbed higher, Anaya began to explore the surrounding fields on her own, guided by Mira's earlier instructions. She felt a sense of freedom she had never experienced before. The air was fresh and smelled of grass and earth. She walked slowly, taking in the view of the hills, the animals grazing peacefully, and the quiet rhythm of the ranch. It was a life far removed from the whispers of judgment and the cruel jokes of the village. Anaya felt her heart lift with every step. She realized that the prank, though painful at first, had led her to a place where she could grow, heal, and find true companionship. News of the bride's unexpected stay at the ranch eventually reached the village. The villagers who had orchestrated the prank were shocked to hear that Anaya was not frantic or embarrassed, but calm and seemingly happy. They had expected her to be humiliated, to cry, or to beg to return immediately, but instead she had embraced the new surroundings. Some of them felt guilty, others simply curious, and a few were surprised to see the strength and grace with which she carried herself. The news spread slowly, and people began to reflect on the cruelty of their joke and the resilience of the bride. Over the next few days, Anaya and Mira worked closely together, forming a strong friendship. They laughed, shared stories, and supported each other in every task. Anaya realized that the orphan girl's life had not been easy. Mira had faced challenges and hardships, but she had grown into a compassionate and understanding person. Anaya admired her courage and strength, and she found herself inspired by the girl's positive outlook on life. In turn, Mira admired Anaya's patience, kindness, and ability to find joy even in difficult circumstances. Their bond became a source of comfort and strength for both of them. One morning, as they were feeding the animals, a group of villagers arrived at the ranch. They had come to check on Anaya, expecting to find her upset and humiliated. But what they saw surprised them. Anaya was smiling, working alongside Mira, and handling the tasks with grace and confidence. She looked happy and at peace, far from the embarrassment they had hoped to witness. The villagers were speechless. Some felt ashamed of their actions, realizing that their cruel joke had failed to hurt her spirit. Others could not help but admire her resilience and the genuine friendship she had found at the ranch. The villagers approached Anaya hesitantly. She greeted them politely, her voice calm and steady. "Thank you for coming," she said. "I understand the mistake that was made, but I am fine. In fact, I am happy here. This place has shown me the value of kindness, friendship, and acceptance." Her words were gentle but firm, and they carried a quiet power that left a strong impression on everyone present. The pranksters, in particular, felt the weight of their actions, but Anaya's grace allowed them to feel remorse without being condemned harshly. She chose forgiveness over resentment, showing that true strength lies in compassion. Over the following weeks, Anaya's presence at the ranch brought positive changes. She began helping with new projects, planting gardens, caring for injured animals, and organizing small events for the children in the nearby village. The ranch became livelier, filled with laughter, warmth, and the energy of shared purpose. Anaya realized that her life had taken an unexpected turn, but it had led her to a place where she could truly make a difference. Her confidence grew, not from the approval of others, but from knowing that she was valued for who she was, not how she looked. As time passed, Anaya and Mira's friendship deepened. They supported each other through challenges, celebrated small victories, and shared dreams for the future. Anaya learned that happiness is not defined by ceremonies or appearances, but by the connections we build, the love we share, and the compassion we show to others. Mira, in turn, discovered that her own life could be enriched by friendship and the courage to embrace new opportunities. Together, they created a small world of kindness and understanding that contrasted sharply with the cruelty Anaya had faced in her village. Eventually, the story of Anaya's resilience and the orphan girl's kindness spread beyond the village. People began to visit the ranch, not to witness humiliation or embarrassment, but to learn from the example set by the two friends. They saw how acts of compassion could transform lives, how courage and kindness could overcome cruelty, and how friendship could flourish in the most unexpected circumstances. Anaya and Mira became symbols of hope and inspiration, reminding everyone that true happiness comes from within and from the relationships we nurture, not from the approval of society or the judgment of others. One evening, As the sun set and painted the sky with shades of pink and gold, Anaya and Mira sat on a hill overlooking the ranch. They were quiet for a moment, simply enjoying the view and the peace that surrounded them. Anaya reflected on how far she had come, from a nervous bride sent on a cruel prank to a confident, happy young woman who had found friendship, purpose, and acceptance in the most unlikely place. She knew that life would continue to bring challenges, but she also knew that she had the strength, resilience, and support to face whatever came next. Anaya took a deep breath and smiled. She realized that the prank, while hurtful, had been a turning point in her life. It had led her to Mira, to the ranch, and to a deeper understanding of herself. She had discovered that true beauty lies not in appearance but in the heart, in acts of kindness, and in the courage to embrace life fully. The orphan girl beside her had shown her the meaning of compassion, and together they had created a life filled with warmth, joy, and purpose. As the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, Anaya felt a profound sense of gratitude. She had learned that even when life seems unfair or cruel, there is always the possibility of finding unexpected blessings. The ranch, the friendship, and the quiet moments of joy had given her a new perspective on life. She knew that she was no longer defined by the cruel words of others or by society's narrow standards. She was defined by her heart, her actions, and the love she shared with those around her. In that peaceful night, surrounded by the gentle sounds of the ranch and the comforting presence of Mira, Anaya realized that she had found something far more valuable than a wedding celebration. She had found acceptance, friendship, and a sense of purpose that would guide her for the rest of her life. And in that realization, she knew that her journey, though unexpected, had led her to exactly where she was meant to be.